There are plenty of people out there that would stand in their truth and refuse to wear a wig. The question is, would that make you a jerk? Well, we'll get into that story in just a bit, but first, am I the jerk for not letting my friend crash at my place after a night out because I had work the next day? I, 23-year-old female, live in a one-bedroom apartment in the city, and I work a 9 to 6 corporate job that's been really draining lately. I'm usually in bed by 10 because I have a long commute and a manager who micromanages everything I do. This past weekend, my friend, Lena, 24-year-old female, invited me out with a few people for drinks and dancing. I said I'd come for a bit, but couldn't stay out super late since I had to be up early Monday for a project deadline. Around 1:30 a.m., I was home and already in bed when Lena texted me saying she'd missed her last train and asked if she could crash at mine. She lives in the suburbs and would have had to wait until 5:30 a.m. for the next train. I didn't respond immediately because I was half asleep and honestly didn't want to deal with someone stumbling in at 2 a.m., making noise and crashing on my tiny couch. I just let the text sit and went back to sleep. The next day, she sent a passive-aggressive message like, "Thanks for the help last night. Good to know where we stand, lol." Now she's being cold with me and told some friends I left her stranded. I get that it sucked for her, but I also didn't sign up to be a backup plan at 2 a.m. Am I the jerk for prioritizing my sleep and not answering? Well, I think the question needs to be asked, is this really your friend or not, or are you really her friend? Because if you guys are friends, then yes, I think that you should absolutely try to help her out in this scenario. But either way, you gotta communicate. Just ignoring the message and going back to sleep is kind of a jerk move, not gonna lie. So if you didn't want her to come over, just say so, right? Nothing wrong with a little honesty and transparency. I know people can't handle that nowadays, but that's how you handle that situation. Maleficent Web 6034 replied, "You're going to get a lot of people telling you not the jerk, and they're going to list very valid reasons backing you up. But personally, when my friends make a mistake or need some help, I help them, especially when it's night and dangerous for them. And when I make mistakes or need help, they're right there to help me too. You don't technically owe anyone anything, so if that's the type of person you want to be, go ahead. But I've had friends need to crash on my couch for a variety of reasons, and I've always said yes, even when it's a bit inconvenient. And I always will say yes. If they acted poorly at my house or this was a habit, we'd have a conversation about it and find a resolution. I'm glad that you're not part of my circle." Also, hey everybody, my name is Brendan, and if you guys enjoy these Am I the Jerk videos, it would be super cool if you like the video or commented down below if you're listening to our podcast. Now then, our next story is, am I the jerk for not letting my neighbor's kid ruin my lawn in the name of imagination? I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood with your standard backyard, some grass, a few old trees, a weathered shed. Nothing fancy, but I try to keep it tidy. I'm on polite but not close terms with most neighbors. We wave, sometimes chat about the weather, and that's about it. There's a family 2 doors down with a boy who's maybe 9 or 10. Lately, he's gone full pirate mode. I mean fully committed. Eye patch, cardboard sword, yelling "Yee-beaked" at squirrels. Honestly, pretty wholesome. At first. Then I started noticing small holes in my yard. Just little ones near the fence. I assumed it was raccoons, but then the holes got bigger. One morning I got out and found the ground behind my shed completely torn up, with clumps of grass tossed around and a map pinned to the tree with a stick. Eventually I caught him out there mid-dig. I asked him what he was doing and he straight up said, "I'm hiding my treasure. No one must know. This is the perfect hiding spot." I told him calmly, "Hey, this is my yard. You can't dig here." He got a little huffy but ran off. I figured that was the end of it. Nope. Next day, there's a new hole, bigger, a tin lunchbox half buried behind the shed. I dig it up and it's full of Pokemon cards, fake jewels, toy coins, and a few crumpled $5 bills. I bring it to his mom and explain what's going on. She immediately gets defensive. No apology, just a heavy sigh and a, "Well, he's just using his imagination. I think it's sweet." I told her I didn't mind the creativity, just not in my yard. She rolled her eyes and said, "Can't you just let him have this? It's not like your grass is that nice anyway." That one actually stunned me. I said, as politely as possible, that I didn't want holes being dug on my property by someone else's kid. I handed over the box and left. That night, she sends a long text telling me I humiliated her son, crushed his imagination, and quote, "created an environment where children can't feel safe being children." She cried for over an hour and now thinks I'm the villain of his story. Her words. I didn't reply. I get it, he's a kid. I didn't yell, I didn't shame him, and I even gave the stuff back. But I'm not thrilled about my yard being turned into a sandbox and getting insulted for not being okay with it. So, am I the jerk for drawing a line and not entertaining a pirate storyline that involved my yard getting wrecked? No, your yard, your property. I mean, I absolutely love what the kid is doing as far as really leaning into the pirate thing, but no, he can't be just tearing apart your yard. If he wants to do that in his own yard, or his mom's yard rather, then yeah, so be it. But no, you have every right to stand up for, the cleanliness of your property. Someone you don't know, 70, replied, "Not the jerk. His mom needs to teach him to respect others' property. You don't get to do whatever the heck you want as a kid in the name of using your imagination. Maybe he should use his imagination to pretend that he buried his treasure in your yard while actually leaving it intact. I think that would be more constructive use of it. His mom is on the hook for teaching her kid to channel his creative impulses into productive endeavors, not destructive ones. When he grows up unable to properly establish relationships, he'll realize that his problems stem from the fact that he was never taught to respect others. When that time comes, he'll see that his mom is the actual villain of his story." Our next story is, am I the jerk for calling out my husband for faking sick in front of my kids? I, 41-year-old female, am a stay-at-home mother for my 3 kids. My husband has a very good job and makes enough to where I don't have to work and can stay home with the kids. 3 months ago, my husband had to take time off work because he had a really bad case of the flu. I took care of him for about a month. After that, he started noticeably feeling better. He no longer ran a temperature, wasn't throwing up, wasn't coughing, etc. So at this point, it's been 2 months of him being completely fine and still not working. He also still expects princess treatment from me. I've told him so many times that we're running out of money and he either needs to go back to work or go to the doctor and find out what's wrong. I also am unable to work because my youngest is 6 months and my 2-year-old is disabled and she has a really hard time being without me. Last night at dinner, I absolutely lost it on him. My oldest daughter, 15-year-old female, was asking about a new phone. I told her that we were in a tough spot at the moment, and that meant we couldn't get fancy things like new cell phones. My daughter totally understood, and she didn't say anything else. But my husband said, "Well, you could have a new phone. The problem is, Daddy is sick and Mommy doesn't want to work. So until she gets a job, we can't afford things like food, or the house, or anything." I was in absolute shock. We're not at all in a position where we can't afford the house or food. I told him that I couldn't go to work unless he wanted to take care of the baby, which he doesn't know how to do. Help the oldest with her homework, drive her to and from school, cook, clean, and give my middle one her meds and the attention she needs. I also said that maybe if he would stop faking sick and act like a grown man, then the kids wouldn't have to know about our financial state. He got ticked and stormed off. Then he said I was a jerk and a horrible mother for ridiculing my children's father in front of them. I personally think what I said was probably wrong to say in front of the kids, but definitely not worse than what he said. Yeah, this is a rough argument, definitely not one you want to have in front of your kids, but the reality is this: staying at home mom is absolutely a full-time job, and any mom that pulls this off successfully is an absolute rock star. So while there may not be monetary compensation, you are doing wonders for your children, the likes of which they won't fully be able to appreciate until they get older. So yeah, I agree. Hubby needs to pull it together and get back to work. Like, no one has the flu for 3 months. That's wild. Book Lover 7 replied, "Not the jerk. Unless he fell in love with princess treatment, it sounds like he's been fired for failure to return to work and is afraid to tell you. Contact his employer. Most places don't give that long just for a flu. He'd have to be on short-term disability, assuming you're in the States. Either way, he's projecting. No, you shouldn't have said this stuff in front of the kids, but he 100% had it coming. Would he care to price full-time, around-the-clock caretakers for disabled children and babies? Because that's what he's got for free right now from you." Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to split the cost of a rental car and then getting cut out of the trip I planned? About a week ago, my brother's friend, let's call him Adam, mentioned he was going on a business trip to a big city, Metroville. He made it clear it wasn't a vacation and said he didn't want anyone tagging along. On New Year's, I went to Metroville with some friends. My brother, Eli, couldn't come because of work, though I encouraged him to take a break. Later, I noticed he seemed interested in the city when Adam brought it up again, so I decided to plan another trip, this time including Eli. He was excited, took time off, and asked if he could bring a couple friends. I agreed, and we started planning. I was going to drive us in my car. We had dates and hotels set. Adam wasn't part of the plan at all. Out of nowhere, Eli's other friend, Marcus, told me that Adam was coming and needed a ride. My car didn't have space, and instead of splitting rides, they suggested we rent a larger car and split the cost, about $1,000 for 5 days, just to make room for Adam, who wasn't even vacationing with us. I said no, I didn't think it was fair to take on that extra cost just to accommodate someone who wasn't part of our group. I made that clear. The next day, I found out there was a group chat I wasn't even in. Then Marcus messaged me, calling me immature, and Eli texted me seconds later asking if I was okay with not going. So I didn't back out. I got pushed out of the trip I planned. I'm pretty upset, especially since my own brother was part of it. I didn't make it about money or control, I just didn't want to foot the bill for someone else's business trip. Am I the jerk for refusing to split the rental and then getting excluded from the trip I organized? No, if anything, this is a jerk move by your brother and friends for pulling the old bait and switch on you like this. I mean, really, enough said. Anybody can see that this is not okay. Shade of Nothing replied, "Not the jerk. You organized the trip, you offered your car, and you set a reasonable boundary about cost and accommodation for an uninvited guest. Your brother and his friends then acted like entitled children, created drama, and excluded you. Good riddance to that trip with them, honestly. Let them deal with Adam and the rental. You did nothing wrong by standing your ground." Our next story is, am I the jerk for not letting my boyfriend come on vacation with me because he's a picky eater? My boyfriend has tons of food restrictions and is picky in general. He basically can only eat chicken fingers, grilled cheese, mac and cheese, and pad thai. I've never seen him eat a vegetable. We just started dating a few months ago and I love him, but I eat everything and I'm very laid back. I know I will have to plan my entire day around finding food he can eat, on top of listening to him complain that things aren't the same. Even if a restaurant does have chicken fingers or mac and cheese, it won't be the same as what we get at home, and I just don't want to hear about it while I'm on vacation. Am I the jerk? I feel bad. Edit. I'm breaking up with him. After seeing a glimpse into my future via your responses, I realized I cannot do this and it will eventually wreck us. Thank you. No, that's just annoying to deal with in general. Like, people that are not only picky, but that aren't willing to compromise what they eat at all. Like, it has to be this specific mac and cheese, this specific grilled cheese or pad thai or whatever. So ages aren't listed here, but he's absolutely acting like a teenager, and I'm glad to hear that you dumped this guy. Savvy Snail 4112 replied, "Not the jerk. Told myself never again with the picky eaters after dating a chicken finger man. Somehow it will always be you who's expected to plan the meals too. I understand not liking some things, but unless this is medical/allergies, there's a point where this is just stuck up and annoying as a fully grown man." And OP replied to this, "LMAO, honestly, the level of irritation I'm experiencing when people on here suggest I should just let him come and listen to his complaints are really making me realize I need to end things. I'm not that bothered by it now, but low-key, I think I would be embarrassed if other people knew he could only eat chicky fingies and choky milk, and the thought of taking him to an event or dinner with friends and family and having him eat like a toddler makes me already experience secondhand embarrassment. He literally cannot even eat nice street tacos, only Taco Bell." Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my disabled neighbor on welfare that I won't help her with getting to her medical appointments? So I have a friendly neighbor that lives with her 2 adult sons. They're all just trying to get by. The 3 of them share one car, usually in use by one of the sons to get to work. My neighbor is disabled and needs to occasionally go to medical appointments. Usually she transports herself there or her kids give her a ride, but sometimes work schedules prevent her from accessing the shared car. Our city isn't very bus-friendly either, and my neighbor can't stand for more than 20 minutes at a time, so busing is an option, but very hard. I'm also unemployed, layoff, but I don't exactly have free time. I've been applying to jobs like it's a full-time job in and of itself. I will occasionally help her with picking up something or being dropped off 5 minutes away. My neighbor asked me last month to drive her to a medical appointment, which was 15 minutes away, so already 30 minutes of my time, which is generous already in my opinion. She didn't tell me she needed a ride home until the day of, and I needed to, therefore wait until 45 to 60 minutes until her appointment was done. This now took 2 hours out of my morning that I could have used for resume and cover letter writing, or even just simply life stuff. And I really didn't appreciate not being told this portion when I'm already going out of my bloody way. I was able to bring my laptop to work in the car, but I'm seriously ticked off about the undisclosed info, and this feels like such a huge overreach of time, and that my generosity was taken advantage, because who's going to say yes to sitting around waiting for someone's turn in sluggish healthcare system? I told her something along the lines of, "Hey, so I wasn't told I'd be waiting for your medical appointment to finish, and I don't have that kind of time." And she scoffed at me, ranted about her disability and welfare situation, and how hard it is to not have a village, and basically called me privileged because I'm a white-collar professional and homeowner, that my 2 hours isn't really an inconvenience compared to what she's going through, and that I'm foolish for thinking that dropping her off wouldn't include waiting and picking her up. I feel like she's being ridiculous. Yes, I can technically make the time work, just like how she can technically get her sons to take time off work or ride the bus. But am I really supposed to show up for people in her circumstance this way? I mean, it's one of those things, like, she just sounds very entitled and ungrateful and woe is me, like, not making light of her disability, but, she's basically using that to gaslight and take advantage of people. So no, OP in this situation, she doesn't appreciate it. I think you need to just, dig your heels in and say no. Primary Falcon 4109 replied, "I don't think you're the jerk for being annoyed, but I will say I think someone saying, 'Can you take me to my doctor's appointment?' does imply both directions. I can see where you just looked at it super literally, that to meant only going to the appointment, but in my experience, 'Can you take me to X?' means 'Can you drive me to and from my appointment?' Otherwise, people usually say, 'Can you drop me off at my doctor?' or whatever. I think it's just a simple miscommunication. You seem to be pretty mad about it though, so maybe just best to avoid this neighbor in general." Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to give a dude $20 after I hit his car? I stopped by a gas station today before work, and after I pulled into a parking lot and got out of my car, these two old dudes, like 60s to 70s, got out of their car and claimed I slammed into their car, then pointed at a giant scrape on my front bumper that I got in another accident. I noticed the dude had a huge dent that was obviously already there, and when I pointed out the damage on both cars was obviously already there, he claimed, quote, "Yeah, but you made my dent worse." I thought maybe he was joking, and it seemed so ridiculous because I was 99% sure I didn't hit him. He started guilting me, saying stuff like, "Well, if it was an expensive car, you'd have a problem. I can try to be nice. I just want you to know what you did was wrong." Before his friends started saying stuff like, "You should at least slide him $20. It's the right thing." I felt like I was being scammed, so said, "Have a good day," and went inside the store. After about a minute, the friend came in and started harassing me in line, saying, "You should give him the $20. It's the least you could do." I ignored him and walked up to the cashier. The cashier asked if I needed anything, and the dude said, "Maybe the footage. She just slammed into our car. I felt the whole car rattle." The cashier asked if it was true, and I said, "No, he's claiming old damage just happened when it didn't." The dude then said, "Well, you should just give us the $20 or we'll sue you." I said, "Okay, go ahead and sue me." To which he said something under his breath about calling the cops and just walked away and waited by their car. They didn't bother me when I left. The part that makes me feel like I could be a jerk is the possibility that maybe I actually did scrape his car, and because I instantly felt like I was being freaked with, I didn't really take it seriously, which would have been a huge Richard move if I somehow did hit his car. But I feel like I would have definitely noticed if I indeed slammed into it so hard it rattled. The car was also a crapbox 90 sedan that was covered in dents and rust and had no grille. If he had wanted to genuinely look at the footage or go through my insurance, we could have talked it out. But the instant guilting and leaving without asking for the footage or my name or anything makes me feel like they were definitely scammers. Did I avoid getting scammed, or am I a jerk who hit and ran two seniors? 100%. I mean, you said you're 99% sure. I'm 100% sure that this was a scam attempt, fraud. These guys are no good. I mean, just because they're old, you can't feel bad for them. Old people do bad things too. So, no, not the jerk. Keep your $20 and buy yourself something nice with that. And Shirley replied, "Not the jerk. Look, I've hit a lot of cars in my life and been hit as well. You will know. There's a grinding noise and the whole car shakes. Those old men were trying to scam you. I would have been like, okay, I'll call the cops and see what happens. In a post 9/11 world where cameras are almost everywhere, they probably would have backed down immediately if you called their bluff. And OP replied to this, yeah, that's what I thought. Even when I have love-tapped someone and caused absolutely no damage, it was very obvious. And he instantly backed down once I told him, go ahead and sue me. Our next story is, am I the jerk for asking my fiancé to cover up her feminine products? Posted from a burner account, as my fiancé is an occasional Reddit user. I, 32-year-old man, have been living with my fiancé, 27-year-old woman, for the better part of a year. Overall, cohabitating has gone incredibly well. We're both meticulous with our chores, and we generally communicate better than most couples that we know. However, we've lately had a disagreement that's difficult to settle. My fiancée leaves her used period products at the top of open trash cans in bathrooms that guests use, and she does not like that I ask her to cover the discarded products. I'm not generally grossed out by the menstrual cycle or by blood. I worked in healthcare for most of my 20s. I'll pick up pads or tampons for my fiancé without feeling awkward, and this may be TMI, but I'm not opposed to period hooked up. It just doesn't faze me. However, neither I nor our occasional guests should expect to see blood-soaked tampons complete with clots every time that we use the bathroom. It's jarring seeing the bloody scene in an otherwise clean bathroom without warning. I've tried to come up with minimally invasive solutions, such as my fiancé wrapping her products in toilet paper before discarding them, as past partners have done, or even purchasing a closed-up trash can. My fiancé firmly rejects both of these plans, saying that if she has to go through the monthly ordeal, I, and by extension our guests, shouldn't get to complain about having to see the aftermath. I'm sympathetic to her experiences, but at the same time, her response feels retributive. On one recent occasion, when guests were coming over for a game night, I pulled some extra toilet paper and gently laid it on top of the trash, covering the bloody products before they arrived. My fiancé noticed this and confronted me after the guests left, accusing me of being ashamed of her and of going against what we had previously discussed. Taking a step back, this shows that she's intentional about the visible products, enough so that she checked to see if they were still in place. At this point, it feels spiteful. Am I the jerk? What would you folks suggest that I do in this situation? Even an intervention that requires no effort on her part, the closed-top trash can, was rejected with prejudice. I love my fiancé, but what could have been a small discussion is becoming a mountain of conflict. Yeah, not gonna lie, this is kind of strange. I mean, women go through this, it sucks, not making light of it, but the fact that she just wants it to basically be on display for the world to see and won't listen to any kind of alternative solution, like OP said, cover the trash can or just dispose of them, she wants people to see, especially guests. I don't know, that just sounds kind of icky. I wouldn't want to walk in on that if I was at someone's house visiting. Wandering Storm replied, not the jerk, gross talk incoming. As a woman, I believe women should not be ashamed by having a period, but I akin disposal of my period products to disposal of, say, the contents of used toilet paper. I would not wish to leave dirty, used toilet paper in my wastebasket to be seen by the next bathroom user. No one wants to see my wad of poo or pee paper, but I can flush my toilet paper. Problem solved. I feel the same way about my period products. It's used, it's dirty, it has an odor. Some people are indeed grossed out by it, even if it's a natural, normal part of a woman's life. Heck, even I'm a little grossed out by my period, and I've been having one for 30 plus years at this point. Good God. Even in my own bathroom that I don't share with people, I cover my products when I toss them. I either wrap them in the new products wrapper or use a bit of toilet paper. And yes, that she noticed that you covered the products shows she has an understanding that leaving them uncovered is a problem for you or others, and she seems like she's willfully not covering them for some reason, which is weird. Chaos is a Pony replied, exactly, I'm a menstruating woman that isn't ashamed or embarrassed of my period. That doesn't mean it's socially acceptable to leave my bodily fluids visible to other members of the household and guests. This is the same thing as leaving poop-covered toilet paper uncovered in the trash can and then watching to make sure no one covers it up. It's a bit unhinged. Our next story is, would I be the jerk if I told my brother the real reason our family fell apart? About 3 years ago, my female, 21 years old, parents split apart and are currently undertaking divorce proceedings. My brother, 18-year-old male, is currently living with my dad while I live with my mom, with their houses only being about 20 minutes away from one another. Both my parents are very tense and are not civil during these proceedings. When they announced their divorce, I had learned that my mom had an emotional affair for a few months, and this had led to the divorce. This has led my brother to blame my mother for ruining the family and blaming her for the split of my family, and they're not currently speaking. However, I know that my dad had a physical affair before this occurred and had heard him and his AP being physical in the house while my mother was home. However, my dad does not know this information, or that I know he's cheated. My father is currently blaming my mother for splitting the family apart and is one of the driving reasons for my brother not speaking to my mother, and says that she cheated on him. Hypocrite. My question is, would I be the jerk if I told my brother the real reason of what happened? Some things to consider are, my parents are underway with divorce proceedings, and if this causes any tensions between them, this can cause financial stress between both of them, and my mom could lose lots of money. My mom is aware I know of the affair, however is worried about any implications of telling anyone. Many people who have chosen my dad's side in the divorce are aware of this. No, go ahead and tell them. It's family. I mean, really, both of them kind of suck for having affairs in their own way. But yeah, no, little bro deserves to know. Tell him what you know, and then he can formulate his own opinion on who he wants to speak to, or who he wants to blame from that point once he has the full picture. Entire Preference 69 replied, "Not the jerk. I'd normally say stay out of relationship issues that aren't yours, but your parents have made their mess your problem, and it's now affecting your relationship with your brother. A child has no moral obligation to lie to protect their parent, especially when it comes at the cost of their relationship with their sibling. I talked to your dad about how this is weighing on you and give him a chance to tell the truth first." Our next story is, am I the jerk for losing my temper over bone broth being added to a soup? My girlfriend, a 24-year-old female, and I, 23-year-old male, are ovo-lacto vegetarian and have been for approximately 6 months or so because she developed a sudden involuntary negative reaction to meat and some animal products. At best, she'll spit out the offending bite and rinse her mouth out, and at worst, she'll get sick almost immediately. She's gone to her primary care and is seeing a therapist, but we have yet to know why she reacts this way. Any meat, from mammal to poultry to fish, triggers this reaction in her if she consumes it. Even sufficiently meaty vegan products that imitate the taste and texture of meat too well can set it off in her. I opted to cut meat out of my diet as well, consider I do most of the cooking, and it's easier to make us both the same meals rather than worry about cross-contamination. I've grown to prefer some of the meatless alternatives of our normal fare, and seeing her unabashedly enjoy my food makes me feel warm and content. One of the worst ingredients that triggers a reaction in her is bone broth. I used to drink and cook with it beforehand, but nowadays I use mushroom broth and I don't notice much of a difference except when shopping, as it tends to be in stock at my local grocer even when meat alternatives aren't. Sometimes I even switch out instant ramen seasoning for mushroom bouillon base with dried veggies if I'm feeling lazy and want something quick. We have a shared friend, B, 24-year-old male, who invites us and a few others, including C, 23-year-old male, over occasionally for dinner and a hangout. He's a much better cook than I am, and he invited us over a group chat recently, even offering to send a few recipes he'd been considering making by us to make sure he could accommodate. A and I looked over the recipes B sent, and a minestrone recipe caught our eye, especially because it's been soup weather and I haven't had proper minestrone in ages. We told him what we thought and he admitted it's what he would have chosen too. He sent a time and date to the group chat and all seemed well. The day rolls around and we arrive a little later than everyone else. We get settled in and we serve ourselves some soup before sitting at the table. A only had a single spoonful before immediately making a beeline for the bathroom. As soon as the bathroom door slammed shut, C shrunk in his seat and admitted to adding bone broth to the minestrone while B was greeting us, as he felt it needed flavor and didn't think A was really vegetarian. This is where I may be the jerk. I laid into C, calling him, among other things, a freaking idiot for tampering with food someone else made, and a piece of crap for doing it knowing full well it was supposed to be vegetarian and making my girlfriend sick. I told him I never wanted to see his face again and left for home with A as soon as she got out of the bathroom and had rinsed her mouth out. Now the group chat is in shambles. A says she appreciates me standing up for her, but feels bad for causing a scene. Am I the jerk? No, you're standing up for your girlfriend, you're being very, very supportive in that situation, and this wasn't an honest mistake, this was intentional. So yeah, you have every right to be angry for being misled, if nothing else. One user replied, "Not the jerk. A recent article talked about an increase in meat allergies. It's called alpha-gal syndrome, AGS, and it's caused by a bite from the Lone Star tick. I think someone else mentioned it also." Our next story is, am I the jerk for taking a shower during my parents' party and making it weird? Hey, so this might sound dumb, but I honestly can't stop thinking about it. I'm 19, female, and still live at home. Last night, my parents threw a party. Nothing crazy, just like 18 people. Mostly their coworkers and some neighbors. I wasn't part of it, didn't really care. I had just come home from a 12-hour shift and felt disgusting. Like I was sweaty, gross, dead tired. I just wanted to take a shower and go to sleep. That's literally all. We have 2 bathrooms, one next to the living room where the party was, and one on the other side of the house. I used the one far away because obviously I didn't want to be in anyone's way. Locked the door, showered, got dressed in there, and was heading to my room quietly when my dad stops me and immediately starts acting like I did something insane. He pulls me aside and goes, "Why would you shower right now? That's so inappropriate." I asked what he meant, and he said one of the guests heard the water and asked if someone was in the shower, and somehow that was embarrassing for him. Then he says it's kind of weird and makes people uncomfortable that I was naked while there were guests in the house. Like, I was in a locked bathroom on the other side of the house. No one saw me, no one was using that bathroom, and the one near the party was totally open for them. I didn't talk to anyone, didn't walk around in a towel or nothing. It honestly felt like he was making it weird in a way it didn't need to be. Like he was weirdly sexualizing the fact that I showered in private, which made me feel super uncomfortable. I didn't say anything at the time because I was low-key tired and just wanted to sleep, but the more I think about it, the more it pees me off. I live here too. I didn't do anything disrespectful. I just showered for God's sake. Literally no one else complained. No one was upset. Literally one person heard the water and asked who was in there. And apparently that was enough for my dad to lose his crap. So yeah, am I the jerk for showering during a party I wasn't a part of? Or was my dad just being unnecessarily weird about something normal? Bye! Not the jerk, not weird, not disrespectful. I think that, like you just said, OP, your dad made something out of nothing and made it weird. Advertently or not, right? You just got home from work, you're just showering, going to bed on the other side of the room. Out of sight, out of mind. Honestly, if the other guest hadn't made that observation, this probably wouldn't even be a thing, so whatever. Come Hold Me replied, "Not the jerk. If a guest had left the party to go shower, that would have been unusual, and probably what the curious guest with good hearing was inquiring about. Dad didn't know how to stay confidently chill and say, 'Oh, that's just our son/daughter getting home,' in a way that suggested it was extremely boring and not a topic of further interest." Our next story is, am I the jerk? My parents are forcing me to pay for my brother's grad school using money they never told me about. I've, 30-year-old female, been financially independent since graduating college. I worked practically full-time while studying, recently paid off my student loans on my own, and just started saving to buy a home. I didn't apply to grad school because I couldn't afford it, and my parents made it pretty clear growing up that we needed to stand on our own after high school. My brother, 22-year-old male, is honestly a genius. He worked really hard in school, got a full academic ride to a great state school, and graduated with honors. I'm so proud of him. The problem now is he recently got into an extremely prestigious grad program that would open a lot of doors for him. He was hoping for scholarships or a paid internship to cover most of it, but it's not enough. Now he's facing tuition and housing costs in one of the most expensive cities in the country. My parents asked if I could help out and suggested I contribute around $15,000 to get him through the first year. They'd match it, and he'd take loans for the rest. I said no. I've been working for over a decade on my own goals, and I'm just now starting to save for a house. I don't feel comfortable putting that on hold, especially when I had to turn down opportunities because there was no help available to me. During the conversation, my mom got frustrated and said they'd be using my other fund to help him instead. I asked what she meant, and she said they had set aside about $25,000 for me back when I was in college, meant to be used for a future wedding. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea this fund existed. I asked why I wasn't told about it when I was considering grad school, or now while I'm saving for a home. She said it was always intended for a wedding, not school or property, and since I haven't needed it, I'm not engaged or in a relationship, they decided to give it to my brother because he has a more immediate need. I'm not going to lie, I was ticked. I never got a chance to make a case for how I could have used that money, and now it's just being handed over to someone else. I told them I felt hurt and left out. My mom said I was being unfair and that the money was never promised, and if I didn't want it for a wedding, then it made sense to use it for something meaningful. My brother told me he didn't know about the wedding fund either, and he understands why I'd be upset, but said he didn't ask for it. He just wants to go to school and thought we were all trying to support each other. I know my brother worked hard and isn't trying to take anything from me, but I can't help feeling like my parents are punishing me for being practical. Yeah, the fact that your mom told you what that fund was set aside for specifically, she didn't have to do that, and so I think that that's definitely kind of a petty twist-the-knife kind of move. They could have just pivoted to the $25,000 that you admitted you knew nothing about, brother knew nothing about, but they specifically said, yeah, this money was going to be for you and your future wedding, but since you're not getting married, we're just going to take the money back now. Like, they didn't have to say that. They didn't have to do that. They could have just gone and taken the money and she'd have been none the wiser. So it's messed up. OP, not the jerk for looking out for yourself and being responsible. Parents, yeah, just a twinge of jerkiness here. Maven Mim commented, not the jerk. Those are really sexist expectations. If they wanted to financially support you, they could give you the choice of using the funds for education or travel, a home or a wedding. That's what I've done with my daughters, who I've been saving for since they were born. But despite it being a jerk move, it's their choice how they spend their money, and it's presumably still their money, rather than an account in your name. So in practice, the jerk element was telling you that it was your money in the same move that they snatched it away from you again, though it was really the sexism that underpinned that decision, which has clearly been there all along. And OP replied to this, that's the part that really upset me. Assuming they set aside money for both of us, why is he worth paying for grad school, but I'm only worth paying for a wedding? Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to give up my reserved seat on a packed train to a mum with a toddler? I, female, 23 years old, was traveling back from London this weekend and I'd booked my ticket well in advance and booked a seat because I have back issues and find it really uncomfortable to stand for long periods, especially on busy trains. The train was absolutely rammed. There was pretty much only standing room on the aisles. About 20 minutes into the journey, a woman with a toddler, like 3 or 4 years old, came up to me and asked if I'd be willing to give up my seat so she could sit with her child. I politely said no, explaining that I had booked my seat and a genuine need to sit for the journey. She didn't take it well. She huffed, muttered something under her breath, and stood near my seat the whole time, repeatedly saying stuff like, some people just don't care about others. A couple of other passengers gave me dirty looks, but no one else offered her a seat. Eventually, someone in the seat in front of me got off, and she grabbed that one. But I felt incredibly awkward because she spent the entire time whispering loudly to her kid about, quote, some people are not being kind, and throwing dirty looks at me. I told a friend later and they said I was being selfish and should have just stood for an hour or so, then taken that seat later, saying that she's had a kid and I should have shown some empathy. I get it, I could have been more specific to the woman with the child, but it was none of her business why I needed to sit. Plus, that was my seat. I didn't book it to give it up. She should have reserved one. It's literally free to do it. So am I the jerk for keeping my seat on a packed train instead of giving it to a mom with a toddler? No, I mean, this is just like when you board an airplane that doesn't have assigned seating, but you pay to be in the early boarding group so that you can have a preferred seat or dibs on a seat that you want, an aisle seat, a window seat, what have you. So you get on the plane, you grab the seat that you want, and then in boarding group 5, in comes a family of 4, and they all want to sit together, and they try to run people out of seats so that they can all sit together, and it's like, same thing. If you wanted to sit together, you should have reserved boarding group 1. So no. You don't owe her an explanation, you're certainly not a jerk, let her make her assumptions, don't let it bother you, you're good. Timely Egg 6827 replied, not the jerk, everything she said applied to herself. She wanted someone who had pre-booked a seat to stand and experience discomfort and pain to make her life easier. You were chosen because you were young and female and so an easy target. All those people tutting could have helped her without causing you pain. They didn't. Easy to volunteer other people. OP replied to this, A lot of the people who didn't give up their seat were in unreserved seats too, so they really couldn't have cared that much. It's just easy to give dirty looks and judge a younger girl who's alone, I guess. Our next story is, am I the jerk for reminding my mom's best friend how awful her daughter is when she criticized me? My family and I celebrated Mother's Day last night by hosting a dinner. My mom's best friend, Holly, joined us because they have been close since childhood. My uncle, aunt, their partners, my cousins, and my grandparents were there, so there was around 16 of us. The older generations know Holly very well. I'm 30, still living with my parents. Holly began to ask when I plan to move out, and I explained my position and the expected timeline. She laughed, and she said her daughter, Sophie, purchased a house at 18 while studying and bragged about Sophie's prestigious career. Keep in mind, her daughter is in her late 40s and the housing market was very different. She told my mom that she'd be embarrassed if her kids were still at home and implied that I was a failure and that my job is not that good. Now, Sophie is in jail for a pretty hideous crime. There's a lot on our local news about the case, and she's currently working towards a shortened sentence and placing blame on the victim of her crime, very publicly through her lawyer. Yes, she had an impressive career up until this happened, but there's no way that she'll be rehired after she's released. I looked Holly in the eye and said that while I might not be a fancy career role like her daughter, and I might still live with my parents, at least I didn't commit crime. I told her that I think I know who my mom would prefer to have living under her roof. Holly ended up leaving not long after that, and it was obvious she was in tears. My grandparents are furious that I had the audacity to say this, and my uncle has sent a few strongly worded messages. My aunt and my mom are keeping silent, but my cousins are firmly on my side. They're all closer to my age and can empathize with my situation, living at home. Well, couple things here. Number one, there's nothing wrong with calling out a criminal for committing a crime, but number two, the aunt absolutely brought this upon herself by talking crap to OP. And it sounds like it was more of like an insinuation than a direct call out, which in my opinion is worse because it's like, you know that you're prodding, you know that you're like really trying to get under someone's skin when you do that. That's malicious intent. And OP, you're right to clap back. And it is what it is. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. International Fee 255 replied, "Not the jerk. Sounds like Holly's living an Instagram version of her real life. You're an adult, and even if you still live at home, you're Holly's equal. If she chooses to belittle you, you're entitled to stick up for yourself. Sounds like her daughter isn't the prize Holly paints her to be." Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to make my demented mother a hot fudge sundae at 1:30 a.m. when she asked for it and woke me up? I, 67-year-old female, am my mother's caregiver, 94 years old. She gets up at night to use the bathroom many times, and I never get any sleep. Taking care of her is a full-time job, and everyone assumes it's easy. I take her to every appointment, to the bathroom, lift her everywhere. It's a lot. Last night at 1:30 in the morning, she randomly woke me up asking me to make her a hot fudge sundae. I yelled back that it was 1:30 and to go to bed. She asked me again and I yelled at her, probably rudely, and told her to go to bed and that her request was ridiculous given the time of the day. She persisted. My nephew in the other room woke up, made her the sundae, which she said she loved, thanked him, and said she does not think she will get to have many of them in her life given her age and health. My nephews, my sister, my brother-in-law, my niece-in-law all admonished me for not making her the sundae and said I was cruel and mean. In my mind, it was an insane request, and now she's going to ask for it every night. She has no concept of the time of day, and I'm her sole caregiver. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but I will say this as someone who's gone through something similar before. As annoying as it might be at 1:30 in the morning, there will one day come a time where you're going to miss her waking you up at 1:30 to ask for a sundae. You're just begging for one more conversation because she's not going to be around anymore. So, it's like babies growing up. As annoying as it is when they wake up in the middle of the night crying and pooping all over themselves, you're gonna kind of low-key miss it when it's not happening anymore. So maybe embrace the moment, but no, not the jerk. That I can see how that's annoying. Bookbat replied, "Not the jerk. I was the sole caregiver for both grandparents through their decline, one after the other. I burned out so badly, and the least helpful thing was complaints, opinions, and suggestions from the other family members who did nothing to actually help. I remember begging for help and a break and being told I should find a support group, and also that the garage needed to be cleaned." And OP replied to this, My family does help, but even the amount of help is nothing compared to actually living with her, and I wish they would stop pretending their contributions are equal. They sleep soundly in bed every night while I barely get 4 hours of sleep. I'm surprised I've not dropped dead myself. Our next story is, would I be a jerk for wearing deodorant even though someone may be allergic? Throwaway account for privacy reasons. So, at the beginning of the second semester, we got a new teacher. This teacher said she has scent sensitivity and couldn't be around any perfume or fragrances. The people in my family have scent sensitivities, so all my deodorant and soaps are unscented. I have continued wearing this deodorant for months, and I sit in the front of the class. This teacher has never seemed to react. Also, some of my friends put on scent products in the morning, and she never reacts, even though you can clearly smell it. Yesterday I had gym class and it ran over. I had to change into my school uniform and had no time to apply the deodorant. The bell rang and I was late for class. I reapplied the deodorant in the bathroom and went to class. However, I forgot to zip up my backpack. When I was in class, the deodorant fell out, and the teacher saw the deodorant. She asked if it was scent, and I said no. She then yelled at me, saying she was having an allergic reaction. But here's the thing, she didn't look like it. Her breathing didn't change, no watery eyes, stuffy nose, anything. And she just taught the class like normal. I felt bad and emailed her about what deodorant she didn't react to so I could buy it, but got a response saying that was inappropriate. Part of me thinks she's faking, so would I be the jerk if I just continued wearing it? Not the jerk for the initial incident where it was an honest mistake and you just forgot. I would say kind of a jerk for continuing to wear it just out of spite when, though it may seem your teacher's being a hypochondriac here, what if she's actually telling the truth and then you're responsible for a health faux pas that she later on has because you're being petty. So, not the jerk, but don't press your luck. CME Not replied, I just want to clarify, I'm asking you for a way to accommodate your medical needs, as you reprimanded me in class for apparently doing it incorrectly. You said my deodorant, brand name unscented, gave you an allergic reaction. I'm asking you what deodorant am I allowed to wear in your classroom that will not give you an allergic reaction? I'm making a good faith effort to follow the rules of your classroom and protect your health as I've been asked to do. I just need more information, as you've indicated buying unscented products is not enough. If she replies with anything other than a specific, realistic brand or list of brands and ideally an apology, take it to the principal. She should 100% be working with you on this. You're not being inappropriate. You asked a 100% reasonable question given the situation, and she's the one with the unusual request, so she's the one who should be going out of her way to make sure it can be met, not play some guessing game. The more she tries to dodge, the more clear it is that this is some kind of power play. If you do have to go to the principal, don't accuse her of faking or power plays. Say that you've made a good faith effort to follow her rules, but she's reprimanded you twice, once in class and once in that email, and more if she does more in her reply, and still not giving you the info you need, and you don't know what to do. Print out the emails and share them. Ideally, get your parents involved. Not the jerk. Our next story is, would I be the jerk for reminding my friend he makes 8 times more than me? Background. My job doesn't pay the best, but I love the work. I obviously would like to be paid more. I was a listening ear to my friend a few years ago when he was looking for jobs. I heard him list all the pros and cons of each option, including the salary, so I know what his starting pay was at the one he settled on. It's literally 8 times more than my annual salary. Our friendship is not influenced at all by our salary differences. We always split the bill, never pay for each other except birthdays, all of which has worked well. I even house sit. He has a cat for him for free when he's away. Now that he's settled into his job, a job he will probably have till retirement, he's been complaining about it to me more and more. I listen, but I can't say I completely sympathize, mainly because I know I would happily deal with those problems if I got paid like him. He definitely is aware of how little I get paid because he's tried to help me look for new jobs, and I've commented on if the job's paid more or less than my current salary. We do not work in the same fields. The incident. When we were hanging out, we discussed about wanting to go to this particular thing on a weekday/workday. I brought up how my job is pretty flexible and I can be available after a certain time. He says, "Wow, you're so lucky. I could never." Then we kept discussing this thing, and he kept reiterating how lucky I was and how it sucks he can't. I eventually got annoyed and said, "Dude, you literally make 8 times more than me. Would you say to an unemployed person, you're so lucky to have free time? After that, things got awkward and he hasn't been messaging me. Am I the jerk for reminding him of that? I think there's some mutual jerkiness here, and street length 9871 perfectly encapsulates what I'm thinking, so let's read their reply. Soft, you're the jerk because you're not unemployed. Just because he makes a lot of money does not mean he's happy. You're a little jealous of his salary, and he's a little jealous of your happiness and free time. That's natural. He was calling you lucky, and you acted extremely offended. Why not just say, yes, that's one of the perks of the job I love, rather than snap at him and compare yourself to someone unemployed? Your response said, you don't have any right to complain, you're loaded, and that's a salary difference influencing your relationship. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my spouse I needed 30 minutes alone when they just got back from a trip? My spouse, 33-year-old female, and I, 35-year-old female, have 2 kids, 2 and 4. My spouse was recently away for 4 days for work. My parents were here while she was away, leaving about 8 hours before she was back. Having them around is probably not helpful, but is also draining as they're high conflict, and my dad in particular often makes demands and asks questions at inopportune times. The other context is that we've had guests staying for all but 5 days for the last month, and my father-in-law was flying back with my spouse to stay. He's nice, but doesn't help, like generally doesn't clean up unless explicitly asked. Anyway, at 7 p.m., I started getting the kids ready for bed. By 8:30, the eldest was still awake, pulling various delay tactics, and announced she was hungry. At this point, I was annoyed as I still needed to clean up downstairs before my spouse and father-in-law arrived. My spouse texted me at that exact moment to say, just landed, kid sleeping? I responded, I've been trying to get kid asleep for 90 minutes, but she's still awake. I suck. Clearly, I should have said, welcome back. But I felt like I had failed at my one task and was overwhelmed at the possibility of more hosting without a break. My spouse said, she's probably just excited, to which I responded, I just wanted like 30 minutes alone without hosting someone. At this point, my spouse interpreted this as me not wanting her to come back. I apologized and explained that this was totally unrelated to her, and I just wanted a break before hosting her dad, but she insists on seeing it as me not wanting her home, and is now basically not speaking to me except about administrative things. I realize I should have said welcome back, but also expected her to be more understanding of how draining and 2 little kids is. So, am I the jerk? Nah, not the jerk. I think that she took what you said out of context, as you yourself already pointed out. And once you are able to sit down in person and have this discussion, I think that it should resolve itself. Miserable Ebentide replied, not the jerk. She lives there, so you aren't hosting her, so I'm confused on her anger. Being alone, even with your parents, you're still the only parent there. Taking care of 2 kids, especially young ones, is hard. When I get back from being away, or my partner does, we both give the other person time alone when we get back so they can reset like they were able to, even if it's just a short period of time. You do need to say no to guests if that's an issue. I don't think anyone is a jerk here, but everyone needs to communicate better. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my father-in-law to not bring over my husband's sister-in-law to our barbecue? For context, I, 26-year-old female, have been married to my husband Eric, 27-year-old male, for 5 years now, and I never had any problems with his family until my brother-in-law Henry, 28-year-old male, married Kate, 21-year-old female. Kate managed to turn Eric and Henry's sisters away from me, but they love her. They all talk to me, and we would call each other often, but Kate started a whole he said, she said gossip drama, and it drove a wedge between us due to tension. Kate has also spread rumors about, talked smack to, and picked fights with one of my sisters, 23-year-old female, because she was a past fling of Henry's. My sister's fling with Henry was over before Kate came into the picture, and my sister is now in a 2-year-long relationship with someone new, so I don't know why Kate acts up the way she does. Kate and Henry have been together for a year total. Henry got arrested 4 months ago and is being released next weekend. Eric and I hosted a barbecue today and invited my father-in-law over. I had told Eric to tell him not to mention anything to Kate, as my sister would be coming over, and I just don't want problems. The last time they both were over at my home, my sister was on the phone with her boyfriend when suddenly Kate stormed out of my home and started texting Henry things such as, I'm leaving, and if you want to stay here with her, I don't care, and whatnot. This happened before Henry's arrest. I say this in the most unbiased way possible. My sister was not even looking their way, and she had a whole fit over her jealousy towards my sister. The way I see it is, Henry is not free just yet, and she's very problematic, so I didn't think it would be best to have her over. Kate found out about the barbecue anyways and wanted to tag along with my father-in-law and his wife. When Eric told me, I asked him to please ask my father-in-law to not let her tag along, simply because I didn't want to deal with any problems. My father-in-law is not aware of any of these problems Kate has caused. My father-in-law made up an excuse to Kate and came without her, and when he arrived, I tried explaining to him when I caught him alone why Kate couldn't come over today. He went off on me, saying that Kate is also his daughter-in-law, and he wouldn't like anyone excluding me, so it's not right that I excluded her, and now he had to make up a lie to get her to not come. I explained my reasoning, and Eric even came over to us and explained to him as well, but my father-in-law wasn't hearing it. He said regardless of any problems, Kate is now family and we have to deal with it. He left shortly after, and Kate posted that she went out for drinks with my father-in-law and his wife. I can't help but feel like a jerk for excluding her now. Am I a jerk? No, first of all, you don't have to deal with anything because someone is family now. Yeah, that might be your father-in-law's opinion, but it's your house, your rules, you can have whoever you want over, so don't overthink about it too much. Scarlett, not that one, replied, "Not the jerk. Your father-in-law can invite anyone he wants to his house, and you can invite anyone you want to yours. If your father-in-law has a problem, he can leave, as he did, but that doesn't make you wrong." And Dreamy Princess added, "Exactly. OP has every right to set boundaries in their own home, especially when someone has already caused that much chaos and drama. It's not about being rude, it's about protecting peace. OP didn't stop anyone else from hanging out with Kate elsewhere, just made it clear she wasn't welcome at an event meant to be enjoyable. That's not being a butt, that's being reasonable." Our next story is, am I a jerk for refusing to wear a wig in my brother's wedding? I, 23-year-old female, have decided not to wear a wig in my brother's wedding. When he proposed, I was thrilled. I cheered them on from my dorm room, but this wedding has stressed everyone out, and for me, it's come to a breaking point. At the first bridal event, the bride handed out experience packages for her bridesmaids up to $3,000, including a destination trip. I'm a recent college grad with an entry-level salary. We discussed hairstyles. The bridal party agreed on updos, given the humidity. Months later, the bride texts me that she changed the style and wants me to wear a wig. I had recently done a big chop and dyed my natural hair, a major milestone for me. I asked if braids were okay, and she said no, followed by texts about uniformity. I asked her to send wig details. She didn't for months. After her bridal shower, she asked if I had bought a wig, told me the stylist costs, and when I didn't respond fast enough, she still signed a contract with the stylist. I tried to compromise. I'd install the wig myself and have the stylist style it. She said no, her stylist wouldn't work behind anyone else's install. I said I was uncomfortable with both the price and process. She replied, "Because you cut and dyed your hair, there are now extra costs for uniformity." Okay. In therapy, I shared how often I felt like the family scapegoat. My boundaries equals defiance. My therapist said, when people get used to you performing, they raise the bar every time. My gut said, I'm not wearing the wig. I explained this to my parents. My mom called me selfish. My dad said, you were a child, you couldn't say no. Then added, if the bride doesn't get what she wants, you're out of the wedding party. I texted the bride. She respected my decision, but I could support from the crowd. I responded, what stings is being told I can only stay if I change everything about how I show up. That's not unity, that's control. I love you, but won't disappear. She forwarded it to my family. She's been very controlling. Others have clashed with her and her maid of honor dropped out. My brother says she talks negatively about our family. When I brought that up, my dad shouted that no one's on my side and blamed my mental health. I was told I shouldn't attend the wedding at all. My brother said he didn't care if I was in the wedding party, which lifted some guilt. I told him I'll still show up as myself. The bride finally sent a message saying I was condescending. My choice was last minute. She's the center of this new chapter. The Bible says the wife comes first, and I, quote, kicked myself out. I responded with truth. I had expressed discomfort early on. My words weren't cruel, they were clarifying. I shared scripture, Ephesians 5. Respect goes both ways. I respect their marriage, but I respect myself more. She sent it to my brother. He texts me, "I love you, but she comes first. If you can't fall in line, you're out. No more discussion." Am I a jerk for refusing to wear a wig and standing in my truth? Not the jerk, and while it is their wedding, and they can set whatever parameters they want, I don't think that they have any room to be upset with anyone else for not falling in line with this grand vision that they have of their wedding. So, no, if you don't want to wear it, don't wear it. And honestly, it sounds like this is a wedding that you probably don't want to be a part of anyway, family or not. Mandels55 replied, "You're not out of line for not wearing a wig and not being a bridesmaid, but I do feel like you're making a big deal out of it. It sounds like they were okay with you not being a bridesmaid. Your brother supported you, but it also sounds like you didn't do this in a quiet, polite way. It feels slightly like you're making this about you and stirring up bad feelings about the bride. That's not okay, especially as your brother seems supportive." And OP replied to this, "I understand your statement, but I had to leave a lot out. My whole intermediate family, brother included, lashed out on me multiple times for not complying and called me out of my character. I've been polite and also firm. I like the bride. I really haven't had any issue with her up until this point. However, if someone is going to be joining my life and it's not my decision, I'm going to have a say on how they treat me." Okay, everybody, that is all the time we have for today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and comment down below, and if you want to check out any of our other videos, click the video on the right. All that said, I will see you next time.